All right, let's jump right into it. Today, we're going to be looking at the core ideas of a guy named E.M. Bounds. His writings on prayer, well, they've had a huge impact for more than 100 years. So, we're going to unpack some of the key takeaways from his classic work, The Reality of Prayer.
So, who exactly was E.M. Bounds? Well, the people who knew him said he didn't just, pray. He actually lived a life of prayer. This quote here from Homer Hodge really paints the picture. Bounds wasn't some scholar locked away in an ivory tower, just thinking about these things. Nope. He was writing from experience, from a place of deep, personal, constant prayer.
And that, right there, leads us to the core question we're tackling today. When Bounds uses that phrase, the reality of prayer, what is he actually getting at? I'll give you a hint. It's probably not what you think. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into. Okay, first things first. Bounds is super clear on this point. Prayer, for him, is way more than just saying the right words or going through some kind of routine. It goes much, much deeper. It's all about the very essence of how we communicate with God. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because he breaks it down into 3 different types. First, you've got just prayer. That's kind of the general term for fellowship with God. But then there's supplication. That's different. That's when you're making a super focused, intense appeal for something you really deeply need. And finally, intercession. That's when you're going to bat for someone else, praying boldly and confidently for their needs. So, you see, they're all connected, but they're not exactly the same thing. And this is absolutely crucial. Bounds points out the single biggest danger when it comes to prayer, letting it turn into just a hollow habit, a cold, lifeless ritual. For him, that was the worst thing that could happen, when it becomes something you just do to check a box or make yourself feel better for a minute. And this slide just lays it all out, right? The contrast couldn't be clearer. On one side, you've got genuine prayer. That's about pouring your soul out, making an earnest plea. It's serious work for your heart. But on the other side, you have what he calls formal prayer, which is just lifeless rituals, sterile routines. It's all about choosing real vitality over empty formality. And this quote, man, this really gets to the very heart of his whole teaching. He's saying the best model for prayer isn't some super smart theologian or a scholar. Nope, it's a child. Think about it, the outstretched arms of a child just looking for their father's help. That simple, trusting, direct appeal, that's what real prayer is all about. All right, so moving on to our next section, Bounds takes this a step further. He doesn't just argue that prayer is a good idea or a nice thing to do. No, he frames it as a divine necessity. It's basically an absolute mandate, a command for anyone who believes. And, he backs this up heavily with Scripture. Take this quote from the Apostle Paul. Paul isn't just suggesting prayer as one duty among many. He says it should be done first of all. So for Bounds, this isn't a friendly recommendation. It's the top priority, the prime directive, you could say. And to really hammer this point home, he uses this incredible analogy. He says prayer is to the spiritual world what gravity is to the physical world. Just think about that. What would happen if we lost gravity? Total chaos, right? Well, that's what he's saying happens in the moral and spiritual realm when we don't pray. It's not just that we miss out on something good, it's that everything falls apart. It's that essential. But there's a catch, a critical prerequisite. Bounds teaches that you can't be at odds with the people in your life and then expect to have peace with God. It just doesn't work that way. He says you have to strive for reconciliation with others first. Basically, our relationships with people around us have a direct impact on our relationship with God. And all of this naturally leads us to what Bounds considers the ultimate example, the prayer life of Jesus Christ. For Bounds, Jesus didn't just give lectures on prayer. He was the lesson. He completely embodied it. And just look at this timeline. It shows that for Jesus, prayer wasn't just some side activity. It was the absolute center, the hinge on which the biggest moments of his life turned. I mean, at his baptism, he was praying. During the transfiguration, praying. In the gut-wrenching agony of Gethsemane, and even with his last breath on the cross, prayer was right there at the core of it all. And then you have Jesus' own instructions, which Bounds points to. And they are crystal clear. Men ought always to pray and not to faint. It's a call to keep going, to be persistent, to endure. And that word, faint, it really just means don't give up, don't lose heart. So what are the big lessons we can pull from Christ's example? Well, Bounds highlights a few key things.
The fact that he often prayed alone, early in the morning. How his prayers were these direct, intimate conversations with Father. The raw, real emotion, praying with strong crying and tears. And of course, that incredible model of total submission to God's will we see in Gethsemane. These aren't just minor details. Bounds says these are deep, powerful lessons for every single one of us.
Okay, so if we actually try to follow this model, what happens? What's the result? Well, that brings us to our final section, the absolutely incredible power and outcome of prayer, according to Bounds. And he doesn't hold back. He describes its power as pretty much unlimited. Just take a look at what prayer actually accomplishes. This isn't some passive meditative thing for Bounds. No, he says it directly influences God. It secures blessings you couldn't get any other way. It literally advances God's purposes here in the world. It transforms people from the inside out and helps shape a better world. It takes our human poverty and fills it with God's riches. I mean, that is a powerful, active force. And if you want a sense of the sheer scale of this power, Bounds points to this incredible promise from God to the Son in the Scriptures. The promise is to give him the entire world as an inheritance. And the condition? It's almost shockingly simple. Ask of me. Just ask. That one little detail shows that even the biggest, most epic of God's plans are somehow tied to the simple act of prayer. And this really might be the best way to sum up Bounds' entire argument. He sees prayer as the main channel. It's like the pipe, the conduit, through which all good things flow from God to us. All the help, all the blessings, all the grace, it all comes through that one channel. So, we're left with a pretty challenging final thought, aren't we? If E.M. Bounds is right, if prayer really is the force that moves the hand of God and keeps our spiritual world in order, then what does it mean when we don't do it? What are the real consequences of its absence? It completely reframes prayer from just a private, personal thing to something that has, well, cosmic implications. That's definitely something powerful to think about.